Guys, first of all, Ilyuka, thank you very much for such a quality approach. Well, let's do it this way in the future. If someone has a topic, then share distributions on this topic to build something based on them. Because this way, instead of coming up with something yourself, it's much, well, let's say more effective to work when you know where your questions are and what everything is based on. Because I looked at these 20,000 hands, I don't use these 10% block bets at all. These hands just go to check. And whether this is good or bad, we will try to figure it out during the training. Because there was a time about 3 years ago when we were there with the Ojars, Ukuruku, Enlight, Spartak, and so on. It was called throwing a bone, and for a while I threw these bones a lot, and eventually I moved away from this game. But I looked, the solver really often wants to roll these dice. Let's go through the hands and then try to draw conclusions about when it's acceptable and when it's not.
Well, speaking of hands, Andrey, well, because it turned out to fold them efficiently, that's one of the advantages of the four. Because, well, I just set it by filter, well, actually the line and selected suitable hands. So it didn't take a long time or a complicated search. So in this sense, it's really convenient.
Once again, sorry, Vitya, I was writing, I got distracted. Once again, say it again.
What am I saying? This is one of the advantages of the four, that I found these hands quite quickly using the filter.
Well, and the most interesting thing is that I spent the whole evening on this yesterday, and I'm kind of interested too, because I understand that I don't really have this in my game, and just, well, some groundwork, sit down, calculate, think, it's really awesome. So even for me, for my own development, it turned out to be very cool. Moreover, understanding when we want to block bet and when we don't want to block bet, because all the hands are different and sometimes we want to and sometimes we don't. By the way, here's an interesting hand. Now, I sent it, and it also has a block bet. Yes, it also has a block bet. Check out the hand. I calculated it too. I saw it this morning. What do you think? No, let's see what you think at the end. I noted it too.
Tim, hello. Hi.
Great, yes. So I missed the very beginning, but there's nothing much there. I was saying that I don't really have this technique. Robert, by the way, Ilyuk, over what period did you accumulate these hands?
Well, this is over the period I recall, I think, about 3 or 4 months. Well, I can even comment on the hands because I made a rank just, well, without the nicknames. I didn't notice that I could, I remember some hands. For example, I remember this one, I played it relatively recently. Well, there might be some useful, let's say, info on the opponent.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, specifically this tournament, it's some inexpensive one at the 54th main knockout, and there were Chinese players sitting there. So now I knew exactly who to throw the bone to here. I was really confident in this line. So because actually I had this idea that it's really great to understand the mechanics here, against whom it's worth doing this and against whom it's not, and in which situations, because, well, there are opponents who will gladly take the bait and there are those who won't. So, and well, this is a really good example where the opponent will definitely overbluff.
Well, go ahead.
Let's immediately look at this, what the solver tells us and how we approach it.
Damn, interesting spot.
A very, very interesting spot. And interesting, well, I tweaked it a bit on the previous streets. You have four-way on the flop, but that doesn't mean much. And overall, if you play on the river, the quarter sizing is hardly used. The all-in sizing is used, well, I don't know, it's some kind of, am I looking at it correctly? Yes, under the gun. Interesting that it's under the gun here. Well, you won't have those hands at all, like you won't be betting fours against all the riffraff. And well, there will probably be some other bluffs, like maybe Jack-9 will be chosen as a bluff, but not like that. But your hand groups like Ace-King, Ace-Jack fall into 10%, and here it's important what he needs. Well, how he plays against your 10%. What he has, well, pushes are obvious. Solid Jack-10 suited, well, 2 8s if he didn't bet here. King-Queen goes into a call. I think, by the way, King-Queen will show up somewhere in the early hives. All we need to understand is whether he will bluff enough. That is, whether in this situation, more precisely, what he will bluff. That is, he has the most obvious combo for a bluff. By the way, I would ask once again to hide the results of the hand. It will be much more interesting to analyze later how accurate or inaccurate our reasoning is. Because for us, well, the main candidates for a bluff are Queen 10, Queen Jack of Hearts, 8 10 of Hearts, I don't know, Jack 8 of Hearts, if there is possibly 8 9 of Hearts. And in the end, even solver-wise, you basically you defend with a slight plus. If we are talking about, let's say, now the possibility of a block bet and its feasibility, then here probably, well, not probably, here is a good argument. You can, of course, check. I mean, with a check, you don't really lose much. But if you roll the dice, you need some kind of real assurance. You need, for example, for him to turn some King 10 into a bluff. Then, you know, it will be super reliable, well, in short, a reliable thing.
What do you think?
Here, probably it also matters that we are collecting value. That is the fact that we have this exactly.
Here, what's interesting on the previous streets, which is not the most obvious, is that even, well, I raised you a little to the continuation bet, because here the continuation bet was about 30%. But your hand in principle went here with weight. But the problem was that 10-9 or 10-8 with the back door doesn't call on the flop. Well, 10-7 even more so. Well, that is you. A guy made a cool call, even in a knockout, even though he covers you. But, well, in short, I added this hand, well, on the subsequent streets. Basically, your hand played itself, and we come out to the river again. And again, we have a difficult decision. All our hands really go into this block bet. And here the key question is for the guy to bluff. And indeed, threes are bluffed with full weight. They are bluffed, but this is not bluffed. This is bluffed like king, queen with king of diamonds. At the same time, well, with the queen of diamonds, we don't bluff the hand. Well, what are the bluffs? This is not a bluff, this is value. This, well, is also not a bluff. So essentially in the solver world, there are no more bluffs. Well, that is ace, queen is value. It turns out if we look fully, what bluffs a person should have in an equilibrium strategy. But here it's a slightly different situation. Why is there a ratio here? Because the size, how much you need to call here and there. Well, in the first situation differs, because here your pot odds are about 22% and something similar here. Then I'll add to the task. So you call 20, the pot is 64. Well, yes. So you have 20% pot odds, well, 21. And
I would probably lock the reaction a bit here. What do you think? I think that ace queen will push right away, and when they never push, they'll just calmly call, like cheaply. I haven't seen anything like this before. Well, I think some good raises at higher limits will be able to shove here, but 7-7-6 are very much so. Well, look, I think there was probably just an active opponent, and such opponents, I think, can't fold 7s or 7-6 here. Well, always. Well, they will definitely push them with some weight just to try to take the hand. It's like, you know, it's kind of an ego pressure to some extent on my part, because, well, with checks, they can just check back and not bluff, but they might want to, you know, rep some backdoor, I don't know.
yes, but actually, if we even look here, what his bluffs are, it's 2 3s and a king, queen with a king of diamonds. That's all. No one else has bluffs. And this is assuming ace, queen. Now, ace, queen, I'm sure a full house will put you all in. Yes, I agree. Yes, ace, queen will be full weight. So you will have such a ratio of value to value bluffs. And even then, your ace-7 calls to 0. So essentially, for you to profitably call here, you just need the guy to bluff 8 combinations. And here the question is simply, will he bluff or not? We don't have a good solution. I mean, just playing check fold is really bad. Well, it's surprising. You know what's surprising? When I was watching the hands, I thought, damn, I wonder if I were in Ilyuka's place, I wouldn't have bet 10%. I would have played differently somehow. And I'm sure I would have bet, say, 25%. By the way, it's interesting how much our strategy loses. It loses a bit. It loses because if I had bet 25%, I would never have folded to an all-in. Because I was watching my hands on this. I have 25% everywhere. That is, in my game, it was always like this, that I have blocks. Well, it's not Minko. What's his name?
Uh-huh. It doesn't matter.
That I always, if I block, then it's 25%, like a thin value bet where I practically, well, it's not a block or something similar, right? We called against the button, called the flop, turn block, because like our card to get value twice from ace high. Well, but like it doesn't have much to do with such hands here, I would probably bet 25%. Although essentially it doesn't make much sense because probably a queen wouldn't pay me 25% anymore.
What do you think? Does the queen pay 25% or not? I think not. I play through 10. But we discussed these hands with Ilya, but I never called all ins. And I see in the showdown that people underbluff.
So this, well, people just call with those categories of hands that should be turned into bluffs.
Well, with Ilya, I constantly watch how he reveals and everything is perfect for him. I don't know how it works. Well, maybe you play in different limits, different fields, because the more ego a player has, as Ilya correctly noted, the more they want to punish you for disrespectful, for weak sizing. Just foam starts coming out of the mouth, like what 10% into an ace?
Then a couple of hands will come out like foaming at the mouth. There were some really good ones.
I just scrolled through my database. I have 20 bets at 10%, and I haven't been called once, but the showdowns are strange, meaning people call with some very strange things.
Well, in general, there are very cool pots here. I wouldn't resist calling either. I think it's okay. But in short, the main point here is what bluffs he should have. He should bluff at least 2 3s at least, and some kind of like a king queen with a diamond. Well, if he doesn't bluff these hands, he should bluff 7s, which you blocked, or 8s. But an 8, 8s are also like he should drag them on the turn. But apparently the guy drags them. He drags the flop with the range. So if he bluffs 3s, 8s, then our call is profitable. And on the other hand, it is also not quite considered here that this stage when you have, I just don't know, what is the starting 100,000 or 30 how?
Yes, 100,000.
Well, if it's 100,000, that's fine. That's fine. So in some, let's say, critical tournament moment, maybe I wouldn't want to make such a guess. Okay, let's move on. Here is an interesting situation. We 3-bet the big blind against the cutoff stacks.
Well, you see 78 to 72.
In my opinion, I poker. So this is right at the very beginning, essentially a chip lead. Andrey, sorry, but in the previous hand, do we have 10% of some flushes?
I think not. We want to build all-in sizing around flushes. Let's check this. Oh, by the way, this is also interesting. No, we actually have, you see, 10% through kings.
I understood that here, basically, the most important thing is the selection of opponents, and that's it, in all these hands.
In general, yes, hand with block bets. Call, push if there's a chance to raise or fold. It's very important here. By the way, I messed up yesterday. Well, fatigue also plays a role. Look, here on the turn, we bet 28 combinations, 0.17, 28.17. On the river, there are 3 plus 7 plus 9, 20 combinations. Where did 8 combinations go? I got confused right away and didn't immediately understand. Where did 8 combinations disappear to?
Help find these 8 combinations further.
Help, I can't laugh, my shoulder hurts a lot.
There is, did you raise?
Yes, just such a thought also comes to mind that
No, not at all. We bet.
Well, yes, there's a bet call, yes.
Not here, but not all.
Bet call, yes.
Me too today.
Well, a new ace came out, right? Did we have something with the ace, Bobby? I don't even know.
Yes, well, yes, because we, well, in short, we cut the combinations that we.
The highest season.
Yes, ace 8, ace 9, ace 10, and we cut those combinations. They disappeared. I'm thinking, wait, where did 20 comb or where did 8 comb go? And didn't understand immediately. Let's move on. But in short, if the opponent fits, then good. So this is also an interesting hand. We bet 1/3 on the flop. Tan, by the way, just a question for you. Do you think we have a valid bet or not?
And the river comes with an 8. We block 8 blinds, get an all-in, call the all-in.
I think it's better to check on the turn and go to the river. It gets complicated when we bet on the turn.
And when we don't bet, it's also tough because we play like check call. Well, there's also the check line. Then for us, the hand, I'm not sure.
Yes.
But overall, we play check call. And on the river, we check and they go all in on us. Well, or something like that for us.
this is not about the hand. It was just a bad spot thing. I just didn't figure out the combos here. How many hands could potentially raise and how many flushes are already there, or just hands in general.
By the way, I thought the same as Robert, that we just, well, I often checked here, meaning my opponents always check on the completed flush. As much as I played, even in the most expensive tournaments, people won't bet like that on a completed flush. They'll bet with any ace queen of any suit, anything. And moreover, she is more often in a bet than in a check. It's clear that the expected values are the same, but that's not quite what we're talking about here. But in general, you can bet a size like the opponent did, like that. Well, on the river, choose what you want again. If we're talking about our size, then our hand fits well. Silence for this. But here, of course, the guy has a lot to shove. All better hands will be shoved. What bluffs are here? Here, probably the fundamental question is what bluffs are here? Well, a bluff is like 2 5s with
5s, 7s, who knows? That's how I was thinking at the moment.
Well, you see, these combos are very important here. With one club, whether he is bluffing or not, but those are no longer there, because essentially that's his only bluff. He has 7 here. I don't know what that is.
No, Kyo forgot.
Kyo.
Jack with the green king. I think Polya will always shove.
Yes, but by the way, Sola also shoves. Speaking of our reaction, as always, it's not great. In general, if you play, well, it turns out like this. If you play some bad fields or your opponent is some kind of bad player, you should always bet 8 blinds and always fold to an all-in. Well, it turns out like this.
But do you know where this hand is from? It's a hand from a poker side, and there everything is just like a burst of chip. So I think, on the contrary, there you should always play very loosely against the refs based on feelings. Well, it's like the field is divided into fish and aggressive players, active ones. And what do you...
I would probably always fold the block.
Well, Kidu, just always, it seems to me, well, okay, not always, but you see, Kidu here is not bluffing at all. Essentially, what we see now is, well, okay, not exactly, but here they bluff like 30%, yes, Kidu of all.
In reality, if a guy bluffs 100, he also has to push this whole combo. King, Jack. Also, well, the 7s and 5s are not obvious. Well, these are not obvious combos at all. Like,
Well, I think the problem here is my interpretation, that I put myself in his place and start thinking about which hands can be bluffed here, and it seems like there are 3 obvious ones, quite a few combinations, but he might just not think of it at all, and everything goes wrong.
Well, yes, we come again to the point that playing in blocks and the further reaction to if we get a check, it comes from the opponent. Now we are looking at the balance. If you are sure that he will shove everything, king, jack, king, queen, fives and sevens, these are the basic combos when you're playing with a good advantage. If you're sure about this, then you can, well, let's say defend well. You see, there is this part of checking. It seems to me that through the checking line, the hand will be easier for me because when I continue betting, I really leave hands, I really collect from them. It's easy for solver in this regard. He leaves fives, sevens, eights, nines with one club, and then knows how to play the river. I myself a little
without experience.
I don't know. I think that it's probably not, well, in short, it's a worse play than, well, let's say some uber top player would probably keep betting and say that they would figure it out. I will probably figure it out a bit worse. That is, for me, after all, well, especially since we are saying that if this is all in the chip somewhere at the very beginning, then okay, let's go. You can play it like that. But if it's somewhere even slightly light, then it seems like I would lean more towards checking this part.
What do you think? You end up in the same situation, so you still need to figure it out.
Not exactly.
A person will also go to bluff.
Fives, sevens won't always go bluffing. An ace, ace-x will bet once and check the river. So no one will go with ace-7.
Are you talking about the turn, right? Or
The turn is not blocked. Okay, got it.
Yes, I'm talking about, well, about the turn, about the river. So when we play the turn like that, then on the river, a block is always better. You see here, the block really has 27-18 and the check is 26.6. So the block has a whole 0.6 big blinds. That's a lot. Well, like basically there's a huge difference between a bet and a check. That's why we need to block, because we'll get a call from worse aces and so on. Well, everything is clear with the river here. By the way, we bet 14. By the way, I think that if we bet a little less, it might even be better. Or it won't. No, everything got even worse. Yes, damn, you chose perfectly. That is basically, you build the logic from how much I want another ace X to pay me.
Well, yes, that's probably how it was.
In short, we come back to the same thing, that if we play the turn, then we block the river and make a decision depending on our opponent. There is no universal solution. And even when we block and get an all-in, well, it's a zero beard. And we just need to understand if the bluff is enough or not.
Ideally, study more of these spots so that you can easily identify potential bluffs and think about whether the opponent is capable of making those bluffs. Because, well, in this hand, okay, I seem to have figured it out. Well, we stood there, figured it out, but I'm not sure. Give me 5 more hands and I'll immediately say which bluffs he should be bluffing.
Well, yesterday, I mean, I was there. Well, not the whole day, but from 4 o'clock working on it, and I found it really fun. You watch to see if a person will bluff like that, well, overall. When I was preparing, I understood that this is a difficult topic because I don't find myself in it often and I lack experience, and this is something that needs to be addressed, like a gap. And here, this hand seemed a bit cold to me at first glance.
Yes,
I looked at this. This is a bad situation for the river block for several reasons. First of all, by the way, I would always bet the turn, always, even though the solver might check a little. But, well, anyway, let's see. But the river is already a bit off.
Yes, it was played quite a while ago, back in April. I agree. It's just a bad hand. It's probably preparing some sneaky check push on the turn.
Yes. But it's interesting that you don't need to prepare a check push when the guy is already scared. You intimidated him on the flop. Yes, you played a check raise. And on the turn, our strategy, even the solver, well, it checks a little, but that's for strengthening. So you understand that when it bets, then the ace queen partially folds, simply. In real life, it won't be like that. When you check, well, yes, he bets ace, queen there. It's always a hand from a bad fold. There's king, jack suited, he'll check, but would prefer to play from a bet and take what's his, so to speak. On the river, the solver doesn't like anything at all. No blocks on so here it's 8, and you, I think, bet less, right?
Well, yes.
Well, yes, it doesn't matter here that we don't have not a single strong hand. He has an ace, a king.
He has an ace king, yes. If we reduce the size, then probably we will go up to 5, yes. But in any case, we cannot build. We have why build this ozone block? I mean, he has 56% equity, and well, basically here, it's already bad. And if we bet, still bet with tens and get, well, an all-in like you did, then your call here is really bad. Well, actually, here it's not that bad. When I looked there, you drew it as really bad. Well, in short, there's this situation where the card strengthens his range too much when it's unclear what he should bluff with, even intuitively. What hand do you want to see him bluff with? Queen, jack, maybe? Well, it's very hard to imagine for him. Well, king, queen, okay.
King, queen.
Here, it probably also matters that we checked the turn too, because the river still changes the equity, yes, in favor of the in-position player, and we have no nuts at all. But if we had led there with a bet, we might have some 9x potentially, then maybe it would have been possible. If I understand correctly, well, according to the equity distribution.
Yes, well, you see, 9x is not the top nuts here, and you have quite a few of them.
Yes, somehow.
Yes, but in short, there are few hands and nothing to build around, so we don't play here. But you're right, it's just a bad hand.
Well, also probably when we bet the turn, the ace king partially folds again on the turn unless comes to the river.
No, when we bet the turn, then the ace king almost all fold. Well, like except
yes.
Except for diamonds. And you have a very clear run out if you played through a bet.
Yes.
Turn. And by the way, let's take a look. I haven't seen this. You call, and on the river comes out.
By the way, Andrey, can you stop on the turn? I don't quite understand the logic of raising with queen jack, but I understand that we have a gut shot, additional equity relative to ace queen, but we raise because it's some kind of bluff, it's protection.
So this is a protect, apparently, a protect against ace jack, king jack.
And show the equity. How much does he have?
Just a second. Well, we have too little equity with queen jack.
Well, not much, not much.
But the kings have even less. For example, actually, I think if you always play call with queen jack in the game, you won't make a mistake at all, because people won't play that strongly. Let's immediately see what he check raises. Check raise 10%. Here, these hands, apparently, he doesn't want to let ace jack, king jack offsuit, others queen jack get realized. Interesting how they get knocked out.
In the game, it will always be worse. There are 8s, 10s, queens, 10, 7, weight 8, 9, I think. Definitely not everyone. And bluffs too. Just the range will be stronger for Ispe. And pushing his queen jack just seems really bad.
Well, in any case, if we're talking about various differences with queen jack, if you're sitting in the world of people, you'll be playing at a loss, whether by calling or raising. That's what I'll say. So I see EV 139, right? And it would seem it's a whole unit of EV, but for the pot, which will be, how much are you betting? 21, the pot is 31. For the pot, that's 75 blinds, it's nothing at all. I would just fold. Well, anyway. And if you always fold queen jack, I think that would be a good play, despite what the solver suggests. But right now, I am sure there will be a ton of blocks on the river, simply because there is no ace king. Yes, we can block with 25. Interesting if we give him sizing like 8. Here everything will be fine, but no, here he is with 25, according to my strategy to collect from what can be collected. Well, in short, and there's not much stack left. 41 blinds. That's it. Everything is there.
There is a super important rule for us to ensure there isn't a strong imbalance towards the in-position player in terms of nuts on the river, like in the check line in this hand.
Yes, 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 yes. That's 100%. So we went out.
Beautiful hand, beautiful hand. My button opens, my opponent's called. He called, we played check on the flop. On the turn you bet heavily, got a call, river. Quite a trashy one. But I wouldn't expect him to have too many eights. So like what eights are there? Many people would also put some kind of protection on the flop with an eight.
Yes, they will send them to bet and there will be so few computers left.
Yes, yes. Well, I was playing exactly against his hand, ace jack, ace queen, and that's what it turned out to be. So here I had to choose whether to check or, so to speak, or
Still, through a bet, there is some value bet. Yes, there with king jack, with although there aren't worse kings, maybe king 5, something like that.
Well, king jack, yes, maybe. Oh, well, 07. And it just seems to me that people will bet a lot compared to the machine. They will close all these trees. Let's see how the machine plays the flop, because we don't play like the machine, which, well, the person still has 8, 9, many 8s remain in the flop check, some 10s remain in the flop check. It's really something.
Yes, they will always place the field, yes, in check without even thinking.
Well, yes, it's a simplified game. Bet 25%, call the raise if needed. On the turn, they probably decided to fold, but most often it's a bet and the opponent folded, something like that. On the turn, it's also interesting that when we bet 17 like this, his hand shouldn't call at all. He has a direct call. There are -2 blinds, but that's a lot. So he has a bare gut shot, but also ace queen apparently, because it beats our ace jack, but not apparently. That's just how it is. That's the whole difference. Also ace queen is called somewhere, and ace queen can be seen.
Seventh hand.
Ace 7 of hearts. Well, yes, ace 7 of hearts is an understandable hand. On the river, again, yes. But here from the flop, we have 9-8. We have 9-8, which, well, they check. But, by the way, this is very human-like.
Check this board with 9-8. I would very often check this board with 9-8.
9, 8, 10s, people check, I think.
Well, yes. It's like the board suited the opponent. I'll check with my nuts to get paid off later. Well, in general, king queen here is between a check and this very small one, because for such it's already too little. What are we getting 25 from? If we're talking about 25, that he bets like king 7, king 6, well, to stronger hands, 9-6, so that we at least get something. If we are talking about 10%, then these are exactly the one pair hands that induce. Well, here you don't really need to try to figure it out, because we see these hands 9-8, 8-7, all these hands that will very often bet the flop. Well, yes, what is there? Only queen jack. Queen jack and even king queen.
It seems to me that they more often bet queen jack on the flop.
Well, in short, purely on a human level, I think it's a good hand. If you take this call and let's say this call, then this call with ace queen, I think on average, it doesn't matter who our opponent is, but on average, this call is much worse than this call, because here we can really see all sorts of hands like ace queen, ace jack, if he has them. Well done again, ace jack. I would never call the turn with ace jack in his place. Well, it's just bad play. Well, why is it still better? Because there will be very few eights. Well, that's what I would think.
The board is whispering to him, "Bluff, bluff, you have many eights." That is, he forgot that he bet on the flop.
Uh-huh. Well, okay. Well, the opponent doesn't have eights. That's interesting. I think we can move on. These have already started with this with bot folds, as you can see up close.
These are mine, yes, but not mine in terms of the hand, but I have ones like this, but they are not interesting because the chalet is not visible. No. And it's still interesting. Well,
No. Turn O, flop bet, you can bet or not bet. On the turn, we definitely don't bet. If we bet the flop as we did on the turn, we play check, check.
33% check. And these, by the way, are our main checks.
It's important that the opponent bets. Well, 50-50, of course.
Well, it seems that opponents with empty hands will bet more often in average situations. Jack 10, King Jack. What is there?
I also see it that way, that it's easier for people to play themselves on the turn and play aggressively because it's easier on the river later. And since we under check raise the turn a lot, well, not a lot, but very rarely check raise it. Therefore, it's easier to get to the river. If we talk about the river, I'll play a good strategy again, but it would be quite difficult for me to call here. For me to understand what transformations a person should make after a check here is something unreal. This is a relatively recent hand. I think there was a not very active regular. So overall, I also folded calmly. Well, that's it. I think here it's better to fold on the river almost always because these bluffs, they bet on the turn more often than here with the machine. That is, the machine checked them to have the opportunity to bluff them somewhere on the river, but people just bet them on the turn and only value remains on the river, well, or almost only value. Well, yes, you see, if you don't look at, then he represents quite narrowly. He represents to you king 7, the ace 7, something like that, which they
check a queen, maybe an ace 10, something like that, yes.
Well, ace 10, that's a questionable value bet, what he's value betting in a machine world.
I also bet 20 here, not 10.
Yes, well, ace 10 full A value is raised out, well, because the range is weak, not weak. Such a working hand, I think, like this. Here, all the reasoning is in the context of how it seems to each person, because, well, damn, here and is I'm chat.
Here, a check might be better than a bet on the river specifically, or against. Although probably against, well, a more passive opponent, it's likely better to bet yourself than to miss value. Because there will definitely be fewer raises.
Well, let's see what he's defending. He's defending 5s, 4s. Well, if he has 3s, 2s, he's defending a6.
Oh, and we were the only ones who put 20 there, not 10.
Sorry. Well, here.
Almost the same.
Well, he folds a little, folds a little.
Well, in short, it's like placing a value bet in any case if we think that worse hands will pay us and 6s are not turned into a bluff, then it's fine to bet like that.
Do we even have anything without a bluff in this line on this branch? Because I don't have a single hand with nothing here. Is there even a machine?
In the block with bluffs?
Yes, in such a small one, it seems like no.
I have never seen anything like that. Well, like just because they are very convenient to call. Do you see how the solver plays? It doesn't fold anything to a block. I mean anything that is at least a pair. We bet 25% and it called with geese.
Well, when it's not a pair, he often raises when
4, 5, isn't it? Wait, on the small blind, 4, 5, king 5.
Well, like half combinations, these. And what does he get? Folds from?
King 8, King 9, Jack 9, Jack 8. All of this beats it.
Well, yes, so he still gets 20% folds. Well, in short, for me, this is super difficult. If you can somehow successfully incorporate this into your game, that's good. But overall, I actually think that if a guy calls half the pot on the flop, then there won't be any empty hands that check the turn. I mean, if he called the flop, it's clearly not to play check, check turn. If we're in this branch, then we already have a hand. We're playing against a hand that has showdown value. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is, like ace high or a pair or something like that. I mean, there won't be a hand that checked. Name even one hand that checks the turn and doesn't have showdown value. Not in a solver, but in the real world. Is there such a hand?
Well, listen, you can guess that our line is also not entirely weak as we check pass here with a queen, because with a queen we will very often bet ourselves, and if the person has even a little bit of sense, they might figure it out and not always bet empty hands in position.
Well, yes, actually, King Jack, that was disappointing. It was disappointing, right? Ace Jack, probably not as disappointing. Although the solver always plays check, Ace Jack. But I think people play differently.
It also depends on the moment.
Yes. Well, okay, this all falls into the speculative category.
Also an interesting hand. Here it's a three-way. I considered it a three-way. The guy opened from early position. The button called. We called on the big blind. Donked the flop, called the raise, donked the turn because it's ours, and blocked the river because it also seemed like ours.
Counted all the hands we bet here, but well, all right, we definitely won't win anything now. But he's also representing something super strange. It's unclear what. Maybe we could have called again.
Robert, what did you want to say? Don't we want to bet more with fours here? Of course, we don't have a four, but
Yes, we were betting as if it was some kind of full house, like some kind of block push, you know?
Well, the logic for me, well, basically is to play the weak part of the range, like, well, conditionally, just as I want to play with the somewhat strong one. I generally like it in blocks, but you see, with overs, it's not always applicable because the solver knows the opponent's strategy well. And here, interestingly, in the three, so he raised, right? We have 8-7 offsuit. Okay, all correct. Now let's take a look. Well, 8-7 offsuit calls, raise doesn't raise further, so here's another guy raising. Well, here's, of course, a raise of a whole 20% on the button.
Well, yes.
It's three-way, and after UTG folded, since UTG folds 40%, we raised the big blind, 3 comes up, and you see how or what. Well, there are no donks as such. To the 3, although it seems like our card. What is it related to? Probably here, probably not. Oh no, there is. But Masha, after the bet call, I think the 3 is not really ours.
Yes, he gave almost nothing. We call here with a 3 through a 3 essentially.
Well, just a little bit after all. We don't throw away anything if we make a move. No, but these...
No, he starts folding, right?
Yes, yes. We discard this after all. We discarded those that were placed. Well, a 3 with reinforcement. Well, only a green or a gut shot. So first, well, now we can raise the donk. It will increase. And the river, you see, basically, we have few threes here, very little of what we want to, well, let's try to increase.
Well, let's not put a 3, let's just put a 5. The pair is the same, just more often.
We can a little, 5, 25. Well, very good. Yes, I wonder how many races he will have, but there shouldn't be too many, right? Only 66% we called.
25-10 we can give.
By check, we get 60% check, I think. So he doesn't want to bet onto 8-7 at all, even with a 3. Well, in short, this is a very difficult hand for me, in the sense that I think it's not necessary to bet on the 3. But even so, we made him bet, and also on the river. Look, he bets 5-3 partially. This partially checks. Well, yes, he bets all the 4s and bets for 25%.
Yes, there is simply no value in 7-8, even for 10, meaning there are no worse hands.
Andrey, what do we raise next on the flop? Can we...
Do you mean on his raise?
Yes, from bluffs through the 4, yes, let's go.
Well, just a little bit. Bluffing too much, over bluffing. I have a lot of such hands myself.
And you continue to raise?
By the way, just yesterday I had a hand. Here, here's a hand against the guy. I opened early. He called on the big blind. I made a larger bet, 75. He called on the turn. It seems like his turn, and he makes a big bet. I raise, even though I understand that, well, the hand is not that great. My suits aren't very good and all that. But I have a feeling that the field has gone crazy. That is, if the card fits their range, they donk in the chip.
Well, that's chip EV. And somehow it doesn't feel like this card really suits him.
Oh, yes, it suits him, but he has no right to donk 100% in chip EV. Well, so he still has a donk. Let's take a look now, if you're interested. Yes, the card really fits him, but he overdonks. People overdonk. Well, where the solver has a donk, let's say 35% or 40 people, well, we can check. I'm actually interested.
By the way, I also bet 40% donk here, without coverage, maybe even 30% donk.
Yes. So, but because the person is a cunning bastard, he thinks, well, the card is mine. I'll realize it, so I'll bet Muhammad 100% of my junk, which, and isn't it a mistake to fold the flop here at all on a big size? I think it's okay to fold. And basically, he bets I already raised naturally, planning to call a push, and he just pushes with 7-4 offsuit.
This is crazy. But the series has started, right? Are you from Brazil? Let's go.
Let's check quickly, okay? I'm curious how much.
By the way, Andrew, against you Brazilians, you see some developments and blah, 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 and this.
Maybe they have some kind of one big artificial intelligence.
There, basically, I had a hand with that Brazilian a little earlier. Here it is. Basically, when he limped, I played relatively calmly. I isolated. I bet 3. On the turn, I made a big bet. And on the river, I went all in. He went into the tank. By the way, there are banks. There are 10 minutes on the final table. I just stepped away from the computer and waited for the showdown because he thought for 4 minutes. Can you imagine? And in short, and he still folded. And then he just decided to get back at me with the same move, but it didn't quite work out. But here, by the way, I think I have a legitimate bluff. Well, like I have a jack, I'm not very...
Well, do you think you knocked out something like a 7 here?
Well, I think I knocked out something like ace-3, ace-4, yeah, something like that. Well, could have knocked it out just because I was sitting relatively calmly in the dynamics, but like... So now let's do it quickly. Who needs a break? You can step away. I want to calculate. Interesting.
I'll step away for a couple of minutes.
Already about 290. Go all the way to the
So that's 2, 4, 6, 7. 90.
By the way, I think it's folded.
Without a peek, I am also sure that the guy folds, but
Yes, their 7-8 most likely are folded.
No, well, with a spade, I think it's called because the depth is high.
For the peak, yes.
Well, I even know that you can bet overbet here. I still place the size that will drag along all sorts of junk because people will fold to an overbet.
By the way, did it call with an overcard, right? 4-7.
Well, yeah. Well, the call is neutral, by the way. This hand isn't protected, but it's actually bad that it's not protected because you want to donk less junk. Let's see, he donks and also needs to size this more than half the pot, but I can't. Still, we'll lower it now. How many blinds does he have? 8 blinds. Well, that's basically how it turns out, and there you go.
Andrey, if we have...
Could you place 25? Sorry for interrupting.
If we have a suspicion that the guy against us is drawing everything cheaply, trying to buy out, and if he doesn't hit, he won't often bluff. In such situations, should we generally start raising for value on the turn more often?
But you see, I would play any turn, any overpair, and so on. I would play everything like that, well as for 25. Moreover, if we give some kind of final table, hey, where did you say they added 40,000? How can I see it? I don't see a bunch of crap.
At the finals, open it, event. Damn, you have less. No, it wasn't in the events. Now I'm scrolling through myself. I opened them. There were 1 million of them.
900 simulations, and you told me 40,000.
I had 50,000.
Where?
Maybe for me personally, I'll open it on my end. I'll let you know.
Oh, yes.
You chose classic.
Thank you. Let it be. It's not too much either.
Well, let's do it like this. I'll increase it like this.
But here too, it will remain uncovered.
Vitya, how was your trip to Moscow?
Oh, not bad, not bad. I rested, rode my bike, walked around, met up with friends.
Ready to leave for the evening?
Yes. I'm going to play 22 in the series. In the series of sessions. That is, in the first 2 weeks, I'll play 6 out of 7, and then for 2 weeks, 5 out of 7, and at 250.
Cool. So let's do it. Don't discard the deal, but I have a lot market. Yours too needs it. How about Friday?
There will be.
I mean those of yours that you sent.
And the ones that were? Let's call on Friday, no problem.
Let's set a time. How long? Let's say for 2 hours. And I have a training session at 3. Maybe a bit later in the evening.
Well, let's get in touch because my wife and I are planning to attend an event there. That's interesting. No, well, here at the final table, probably. No, well, at the final table, much more. People got a bit confused.
Fewer raises from that side, right?
Yes, because we can't put a lot of money into the pot with bluff factors and well, if we lower it, well, basically it's all played with small sizes.
And this was exactly the case at the final table.
No. Was comparing why the guy played like that.
Because he saw somewhere that with bubble factors, he can afford to play like that. But in ICM, he cannot afford it because in ICM, it's about the strict equity of your hand and range. And we can dominate his range simply because ours is much stronger. We can afford it, but the guy doesn't quite understand this. But okay, whatever.
So now I messed up too. I thought it was 30% on.
In short, if we draw a conclusion where we ended, we raise value there or we didn't quite figure it out.
Once more, Max.
Where we bet we got raised, I asked why we are raising further. We stopped there in that hand.
In the hand.
Yes, in this one. We raise a set, raise a straight, or what are we doing?
Hands back.
He raised fives there. He raised fives.
No, in our position, we donk bet, they raised us. Do we want to raise for value further, or what do we conceptually want to raise?
Well, according to Artem's training on travel, we always want to raise the attacking five. Well, according to the dash, it will always be good.
Well, that's a nation. Well, obviously we want a nation like 5x flush draw 4-7. We want to raise there 4-2, but we also want sets. But where is this branch?
We still have post flop, somehow want to figure out how it flows behind.
We play very carefully. You see 64% call, 22% fold, and further raises are only 13%.
Well, we raise sets.
We raise with aces, threes, less eagle. Well, with 7-4, you can even shove all in. 5x suited, by the way. It's interesting that 5x suited doesn't raise the average.
Well, he just raises a 5, like 5-7. There's a 5 plus a gut shot. He has 5-7.
Got it.
He starts knocking out some, probably over pairs partially, like some worse ones like tens, jacks. Let's see.
Well, at the very least, it puts pressure on them.
Well, yes, it partially folds these.
I would fold all the pocket pairs right away, I think. But there are definitely some regulars who would just go all in. Then it would be really bad to pull off such a move with a bad 3-bet with 5-7. So
No, but you have a flush. If he goes all in, it's like losing an apartment for him. You had sevens and a set.
Well, yeah, it's a pity.
Well, by the way, I would very often play a call with 5-7. I see that people are generally reluctant to part with overpairs. If a guy raised an overpair here, it's clearly not to fold it to further action. A super draw heavy board, like they should go really bad, more often flush draw and some other crap, 7-8, something like that. No, you don't have that?
maybe then don't start with donks with these hands at all to avoid ending up in some kind of borderline situation with them.
No, I think donking, well, we will.
We'll just deal with it.
We will still get a lot of calls, and the raise line will not be the main one. We will either get call, or fold, and we got a raise, well, we called based on equity. So here, when we look at a hand like 5-7, whether we call 2 and 9 or raise 291.
But I will always just take a call. So give me 2 minutes this to the master.
Sure, of course. Because we still have a ton of hands, if anything, not even halfway through.
Guys, do you have the feeling that you just have here are overpairs not raised at all in the field?
No, I think they raise.
They raise.
They throw themselves, to be honest.
Lately, what I see is
I play a lot of donk bets.
Just today I played a hand like that and just saw a jack. I thought, well, cool.
Raise, got what was needed to see what's happening. Probably that's their idea.
All right, guys, shall we move on?
Oh, let's go.
In short, I think you can play 3-3 as you did, but it's unclear what to gain from. So here you can just play by checking. There's no this.
The person doesn't look like they're giving up in this situation, it seems.
Well, yeah, like he played the flop, called the turn, and we with a 7, especially since we're not ready to call various turns. If we put him on a queen, king, spades, then we're not ready. So the next hand, which also, in my opinion, wouldn't do the house. It's unclear around what, or block bet around what to build. Well, let's check. Also 3-way, we opened and the button called, the small blind called. We started with a small bet on the flop. The turn went check. Well, maybe I'm seeing it wrong.
And by the way, I don't remember. I think I just watched it yesterday and I've already forgotten.
We bet a lot here, right? On the flop. Feels like 50% from UTG.
I think not much, about 30%.
30. It seemed like there was more equity advantage.
Here we cannot see his equity advantage there
and into Etifeli. Since we are under the gun, they are somewhere there with weak ranges.
By the way, it's hard to understand why we bet so little, such a size, and if we increase.
As a rule, we start betting more when we lose this Broadway part, when, well, it becomes strong due to it immediately. That is when there's no Jack 10, okay, King 10, when it's purely an under the gun range.
Here I understand what's going on here. It's because the small blind is the third range. If it were the big blind as the third range, we would be betting much more. And because, in my world, I think that both of them have strong ranges. We don't need to defend against a bunch of 7-6, like offsuit 8, like 9-6 offsuit, 9-6 offsuit. So he can afford to check a bit more.
If there were two players in position, well, say cutoff button or hijack button, then probably we would play without betting at all, like open raisers.
Well, he could just lead into a check raise line with those strong hands, that's all. Nothing stops him. On the turn, we went check, check. There are a lot of checks here. And on the flop, a lot of checks. So on the river. On the river, we don't play at all, by the way. Where did all the 9 from King, Queen go? Oh, well, we don't bet their flop. That's the whole point. Well, we bet just a little bit. On the turn, they already checked, and now on the river, they remain. He leads them away. Check. If we talk about our range in general, 17% for 668.33. In short, all sizes are possible. The only thing is, you say he bet the minimum hand he block bets with, that's already ace high. I mean a pair of aces. Ace X, he block bets. Well, in short, here I don't really like the situation for a block bet. It's like we're trying to protect ourselves. If we step away from what's being overdone, we're trying to get value from a pocket pair. But it's as if the pocket pair won't pay us with the club because it doesn't want to pay. Well, it doesn't win anything at all. But we can induce this pocket pair, and we don't want to induce with King Queen at all. I mean,
it seems like the main rule wasn't followed when there should have been a value bet, just like 7-8 last time.
Yes, there's no value bet here. And what we're trying to value bet with might even shove, because our size is always some kind of garbage. So we don't have, anyway, I also wrote all this in some, let's read the middle. When we don't leave when it's high chick due to a relatively protected line. Well, read who agrees with what, who disagrees with something. Well, 25%. Well, that's generally a block bet and value bet dish. Well, this rule is not followed. We are not collecting any value in this situation. In short, I think that in a situation where we don't get any calls, but can induce, we just don't bet. That's all. That's the rule. But it's a very specific bet from the flop. If there were also a button and big blind, I think it would be better. When the button and small blind have two strong ranges between them, we can't afford to have King Queen. Well, it's somewhat rare.
What did they show us last time?
We were put all in for 44 blinds. Very bad, by the way. It's interesting what hand the person had who didn't bet the turn and shoved on the bad for 1.5 big blinds.
Yes, if we have a queen.
Well, probably 2 9s with the green one.
You know, 2 9s with a club, because believing that the guy checked an ace, 3 of clubs on the turn to make a hand on the river, I don't believe it. But 2 9s with a club, that's it.
That's how it looks. 3-bet pre-flop, most likely.
Back and forth, probably.
10s, yes, probably. Well,
back and forth without coverage.
Maybe he hit 2 sevens with clubs.
Something like that.
Choked on his own bone.
Yes, yes, but I also often had that when I played with a bet. Also three-way, the button opened. We called on the small blind, big blind, call, check, check, check. On the turn, we bet for value. Well, we collect 4-2, get a call fold. Heart completes on the river, and I also have a feeling that that we don't want to play at all. Block bets there were completely unclear. What are you saying?
Where everything kind of went bad, it seems.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, before this call, I think, well, yes, it's either top pair without a heart or some card with a heart. And it turns out that when you make a block bet, he either calls with a heart or turns the top pair without a heart into a bluff. But with this size, it always seems like some kind of trash. And then it's like we don't want to put money in the pot, so he doesn't have a hand. Well, I don't think he calls on the big blind, even with 9-10 without hearts. What do you think? Does he call with a player behind?
I think never. Well, the size was tight on the turn. That is, we are targeting the river to the pair, rather. That is.
Yes, I also think that for a pair, yes.
Some others, but it seems there are so few of them compared to the combination of a pair plus a heart that there is no value bet.
It's interesting here, but how to play with the rest of the range. So, for example, we have, by the way, it seems like we don't even have a bluff. We probably won't bet conditional king 10 without a heart for such a size. And it turns out that almost all of it is draws to some medium or high heart. There's a straight, some sets, two pairs. Well, basically, it seems like we need to check a lot because of this.
Yes, you see, the correct conclusion is that we really want to check a lot. We don't bet top pairs at all.
Mm-hmm.
We don't bet Jack 10 that doesn't have heart. If we talk about it, well, here the size is split into 60%, 10 blinds at 6%, and 1 and 6. But by the way, 1 and 6 is the least. What kind of hands are these? Well, such tandus. Really, you see, it was fixed that the guy put all 9 blinds.
What of ours? What if we give him more sizings? I mean, I split it completely. I bet as much as the hand is worth. Well, a high heart, a bit more, a low one, less. Well, some kind of overbet or 100%.
By the way, on 400 boards, on 4 flat boards, is it ever appropriate to overbet out of position? When the nuts closed on the ace, it seems like the big blind has more.
Well, if you have the nuts, if you have an ace, hockey makes sense.
If so, then yeah.
Well, there is always some, in general, an overbet, I think, will always have big, there will always be big sizes simply because we always have nuts in the range. And with the nuts, we want our opponent to pay us as much as possible. And in terms of the number of nuts, well, specifically here, who knows, small blind against big blind. But I think we can still have a decent hand there of various kinds. Even an offsuit combo that we didn't 3-bet. Well, and
it's just that when we make an overbet, I think a person might start to hesitate with a hand like 9-8 or with an 8 of hearts, but with a more neutral size, like 60 to 75%, we can comfortably bet a king or a jack of hearts and simply get a lot more calls from all sorts of different 4 flush combinations, plus maybe some once in a lifetime raises.
Or am I thinking incorrectly?
It's just that we have aces, you see. We just have a tiny, tiny piece like a jack, ace 10, which we usually 3-bet with a bad bottom, right? And we practically have no flushes here at all.
No, well, we have...
Oh, we have suited aces. I forgot about those. Yes, yes, yes.
We have suited aces, like...
Yes, that's right. I only looked in that direction.
Not actually. I gave him a bunch of sizes, right? He chooses 10%. And we have 60%, 10%, 9%, and 7% all in them. But he practically doesn't take borderline decisions. And 60%, look, because we get calls there with 10, queen 9. This is a size where we would like to put in medium value.
a hacked Taishek with which we could collect. Well, like that. So what does he bet 10 then, it turns out? Some flushes at 10% he can bet, some worse flushes. Even nut flushes, well, he can bet. Which ones? The ones that are all blocked. Ace 10, well, yes, it gets fewer calls.
Yes, but they are bluffing here. Yes, so he induces with queen 10 a pair without a flush draw, for example. In short, again, a very complicated split in my view. I am in favor of simplifying the game somehow because it's quite difficult to figure all this out during play. We need to understand which part of the range we most want to the little influence. And after the guy calls 60% on the turn, we should try to extract value from the part of the range we can. So I would probably take 60% and build a range around it with any high card. Above 10, I would bet 60% and try to get value. Playing for block bets would be much harder for me here. Well, block bet can be, and you wouldn't take a push. Well, push is completely foolish. Well, damn, what hand do we have? Bluff is... It's really difficult here. There are a lot of fools. A lot of fools around. Well, if you're up against a fool, then yes, but probably with some, I agree with the competent one, probably build somewhere around 60 to 80. Well, yes, but again, that's just my perspective. But again, the hand is quite complex, the range, especially since the big blind has a ton of hands with one club. That is, if we're talking about the big blind, then on the turn, but he has a lot of hands with one club, they all call.
What size do you think he is comfortable calling on the river? Let's say he has a hand, I don't know, 8-6 with the 6 of hearts. What size is he comfortable calling? Well, 7%, I think, always.
7 times.
Yes, 60 to 70.
Okay.
Well, the question is, what does he check with, let's say, hands that are not flush? But for example, well, he just has Queen X, a pair without, will he turn it into something or keep collecting more? Queen 10, for example.
Well, Queen 10 always turns into a check. No, check. Oh, yes, yes. So we have a check, but we are looking at Queen 10, right?
Queen 10 turns and he bets from, so which flush does it come out here? Probably from some jacks or 10.
9 jack bet, 10 is already such a 50-50. 9 doesn't bet at all. 8 never bets. 9-2 probably, right?
No, he bluffs 9-8 for a pair in general. Interesting, it seems counterproductive in the field, doesn't it? Well, yes, well, it's like knocking out the straight that I played for 10 rubles.
Well, yeah, we really knock out the straight. We check it as 10, got a check push with them, with the nuts. Well, sometimes we check with the nuts so that the opponent bets and we can make a full check push. Also such a tricky hand that...
It looks logical when the solver looks, but then you're in the hand and it's like, what's...
Yes, everything is like that. Exactly like that right here to say, why wouldn't I play? Here's what you just played. By the way, let's take a look now. I kind of forgot, but I think the solver will also approve that we seemingly can't construct. That's when we can't construct the range of a small block. Let's see if I didn't say something stupid, but I think around the 8, we want to use a different size.
Around the dappers, I also think it's slightly tweaked with the dappers even.
Yeah, a neutral size is called for. We reach it.
You need to bet 3 times 25.
No, well, you see, there's very little here. With our hand, never at all. With 2 pairs, exactly like 7-6. Yes, you see, that's right. That a tweaked size like 30% is exactly what we want to bet with 2 pairs. And with our hand, Moreover, you see, there's quite a big difference between a check and a bet.
We just need to look at the reaction at 10%, and we can easily learn now.
Teach for what?
Well, the reaction will be different from the field for the wizard. He plays more actively than the field.
No, we'll also look at the calls, for example, 5-3. I think that's how he eats, that he has some fifth pairs, fourth pairs. Well, a lot of raises, yes.
King, jack, he pushes. King, 10, ace, 10 pushed.
He shoves eights and
Jack, 10, ace, king pushed. In fact, not everyone will play like that.
well, yes. Well, here always
A double-edged sword.
a double-edged sword for sure. In any case, we can bet up to 10%, but I would still choose 22. Simply for that reason, well, not with a 9x hand. With a 9x hand, we seem to have no value at all. Peeling block bets with increased or not increased sizes still revolves around the fact that we should be getting calls from hands weaker than ours. When we have two pair there, it's like, oh, something's not.
Probably, if we're up against a fish or a weak nit, we can always bet. Pay, also a hand.
And here's a similar hand, and won't raise 3 either. Well, yes, but here it's actually good for us. With 2 pair, we play the third and fold on the limp, because 8s are a situation ready on the big blind. There are just a ton of 8s. Well, kind of. By the way, it is almost not played. Here, even 60% is often played with what?
Well, with 8s, with a 3-bet.
With 8s.
And so Payatera confidently wants to bet 60.
Yes, exactly the best hand. And here's a similar hand with that you had it right in the group about well, Arthur is asking what size. Well, look at the hand. Teddy opened. Okay, I'll tell you about it. The guy called on the big blind. Check called a third on the flop. Donked a third on the turn. And got raised, by the way. No, he didn't donk. He made a c-bet, holding back the second barrel. Yes. I wanted to ask something else. For example, if he hadn't checked but donked himself and got raised, what do you think? Is calling better or pushing?
I
push.
I would also shove here into the razor with pleasures.
No, well, this is a different situation. Here we would check raise.
So the first question
answered.
To the first question, you answered exactly the same as I did, and we all messed up.
And everyone messed up, yes.
I also think it's interesting. If we donk here like 2 bars, we have it just like that.
But here you see there will also be a difference between a field and a machine. Now.
Yes, well, I adjusted it for him. He has very few raises. His raise was something like 9%.
In reality, aces and kings can cut us and then check roll.
Well, they might raise or maybe not.
Ace, king, I don't even know.
Let me tell you, in reality, what I just drew, that's the reality. Well, like, that's what I think.
And it's 7.
The matrix has begun. What I drew is reality.
Well, that's how it seems to me.
In short, look, 7-6 just doesn't push at all, and the expectation is quite lukewarm. And I'm thinking, why doesn't he push 7-6? There's so much there, but 7-6 isn't suitable for this action.
And show what
it will probably be difficult for us to just play further. Look, king 10. Does he push? No? Or raise? Or push?
No, raise.
King 8 pushes 2, right? Well, king 8, here king 8 of diamonds.
Barrel shot, yes. But there, unlike 10, 5 blanks or 4.5, I think if the difference is small, then it's better to push because there will be pronote, scrap, and we can suddenly play such nonsense that it might suddenly turn out better. Guys, he has aces. He always folded aces.
So, if he folded a king, then with the king of diamonds, he scored 0. Absolutely. If you add 10%?
Just because we have all 8, 9, 8, all of different suits. Well, that is super imbalanced. 3, 4, 2, 4, 3, 0, all are in place. So we have 9-5, only suited, right? And not 9-4.
88584. Help find the stream. I'm trying to find the stream. Okay. But it's interesting that if we take, it seems to me that people still call differently from the solver. Why do they call everywhere? But in this line they fold.
Because this is the final table.
Oh, it's the final table. Got it. Oh, it's the final table. Thanks for the clarification.
Yes, no, I understand. Now look, this is the final table. There were already 600 people. New input data. You have a chance to reevaluate.
Of course, call. Well, and he played the river well, by the way, if that's the question.
Yes, 5, but I'm sitting.
And I think, do people really just take and in 50 field take and raise aces and Vikings with the whole weight of the machine?
No, well, I forgot to say, and then 9 of clubs is revealed. It's interesting what he has here too. If we give sizing 2 and 7, 2 and 8.
I think it's a good connection.
Not really. Well, like oh no, not for our hand, let's say. What hand do we have? 7, 6? No, for our hand it's actually okay. I thought something.
This is exactly a good sizing.
I'm confused myself. In the end, it turns out that we have a good connection, right?
I haven't watched much of this when terrible rivers come. We have 10% playing them.
Yes, I probably watched this call, 9 of clubs, when we played don't call.
Let's compare 2 branches.
Interesting, right? Well, let's size it up a bit more. For example, he doesn't want any, maybe 705. He wants, not, but in the sense of 18 by 20. In short, when we played don't call and when we played check raise, it's different. When we played a donk bet and called a raise, we have a different range. Here we play with many eights, and here.
And your range is different. He bet us there, just called here.
He didn't just call here. We donked and he raised our donk.
Ah!
He raised our donk. Maybe it's even better to do it like this. So this branch, when we donked and called the raise, this one on the right, they don't fit on my screen. So here it's not a call, but a check raise. And when we check a raise, we have the right to play for a small amount. Well, that's understandable because when we play don't call, we practically don't have 9-8. But when we play check raise, we have all the 9-8. Well, it's just that when we play donk, we get a raise, we just shove all 9-8 like 4-3. That's the whole difference, and that's why when it opens, we play donk call, then, right? Or am I already confused myself?
I think there's more action in the flashes. That is, we have more flashes on the right than on the left. Therefore, we can slightly play a little differently.
Yes, you are right. Yes, in flushes, you are absolutely right that you did everything in flushes. Interesting. It's also interesting that I accidentally opened it in the morning to look at this, and there's also a hand with a bluff bet here. It's unclear. What do you think here? The next hand is of poor quality, but if needed, I'll fill you in. Button raises. We have 10. He calls. On the flop, we bet a quarter. He raises. We call. Turn. Check, check. River comes a club goose. How would we like to play?
I think the ideal sizing is a block.
The person has a range made of some kind of crap. I mean, he check raised the flop and essentially played a check raise on the blank.
He raised in position. Raised in position,
okay. Button raise.
I think his range is somewhere around some pocket pairs, like 8s, 10s, with a green card. And well, I would try to extract value from them and induce.
So maybe he decided to raise 10-8 of spades like that in position.
Yes, that's a good idea, but the solver doesn't like it.
Solver probably checks or not?
Yes.
I also wanted to say that we should check until then, let him bluff. We too.
The same thing, no? As if we have...
Close to the opponent. The most important thing is not to place a big bet.
Well, yeah, well.
In general, if we talk about how the solver wants to play such runouts, it really doesn't want to bet at all. But I think we can deviate a little. That is, in short, if we expect where do we expect more junk to come at us? In the check line or in the bet line? Because
Purely based on the opponent again, not even on the solver.
Yes.
well, solver doesn't like it just because what did you do?
It's like he doesn't really want to go into a showdown range, kind of inducing. But on a small one, he might think you have some kind of X and try to push you out like that.
And when you checked, what is your range?
Well, also an X, but it seems like it's hard to knock out with just a check. I don't know, kind of like the...
More. Well, yeah, also from the other side now, you always have to bluff somehow with a check, but not in a cool way. Going check on the showdown with some air. And when they bet, we calmly fold it. Well, there's also the other side. Well, it also depends on the opponent, kind of.
Understood for the most part.
This is this very opponent-dependent hand. Interestingly, the solver specifically wants to protect its range here. It doesn't bet a single flush, even though it has all of them. And yet he still sees the best with a check. If we talk about the next line, then indeed you see if we talk about EVs, then indeed the EV of a small provoking bet follows. But still, even in the solver world, to provoke something. Okay, well, in short, playing with the nuts here is quite comfortable for all of us. So the question is just who will win more with the nuts?
I think it's important to understand how our opponent raises. That is...
This is a very unexpected hand.
What is this? 4-5 a lot is he raising, or 8-9 kicker, or some 10s with the green one. So where is his bluff part, the bluff part of the range? Is it different for everyone?
Well, yes, but you see, he has a raise of 15%. Moreover, you see, I adjusted it for him. His base raise was lower, even though, well, our main sizing is 25%. He doesn't even bet 50%. Of course, and well, in short,
I check raise a 9 more often than a card, and a flush draw less.
Once more?
I check raise a 9 much more than a flush draw. So I check raise ace king 9. I understand, but even in position like king 9, we immediately put pressure on 10.
I know you speak.
All right, raise.
Oh, well, yes.
Why do you raise the 9 more often?
Well, I don't know. I like it.
Convenient.
No, well, it's in the arsenal. Sounds cool. Like, do you then turn it into a bluff when flushes open and close?
Well, for me, it's usually always with the green king. I transform it sometimes into 2 streets.
Your favorite hand is king 9, right? How is it?
Of course.
You have a king of different shirts, I say. But king 9 of different shirts says, not defended here. Is that so? Well, anyway, if we talk about conclusions here, it all again depends on whether you see him leaning more towards check or bet. I think it's a very opponent-dependent situation. When a guy starts raising flops, he's already on the aggressive side. So how to make him again? Get aggressive. Probably still a small bet.
Yes, 100%. I think just take exactly two types of opponents. For example, with Austrians, I think it's not worth doing. But with Brazilians and aggressive school kids, it will definitely be good because, well, they are taught that small sizes need to be raised. And, well, I think they won't even think about ranges and, like, well, the flush completed, small size, bam.
The main group of hands we want to induce are spade backdoor flush draws that want to raise.
Pockets are also fair here anyway.
Well, pocket cards with clubs, and yes, it's something like that. So it's probably better to bet. Although you'll see that the solver doesn't really like this kind of play. It's a brilliant hand with one big blind. The most interesting thing is that, again, I relate it to myself. I think, damn, I would probably always check here, right? And if he bet, I would fold and play like a fool. But actually, he's building around Queen Jack, this sizing of one big blind. Let's open it now. It will be clear. And for a bluff, he has something like Jack 10. Obviously, we never have King 10 in the one big blind sizing. These are the hands you saw. I just knew them.
Let me, I remember, and I can comment more. By the way, it's also interesting how correct I am here about thinking that it seems to me that with a check, we, well, kind of always, in short, when we check push this line, our hand is perfect for some kind of, well, move on the river, right? So, and when we do this through check push, people just won't fold anything. Well, it's like it becomes very easy for us to come up with bluffs in this line, starting with Jack 10, ending with any, I don't know, King, Queen 7, King, and so on. It doesn't matter. But this line seems more, I don't know, nuts oriented for the opponents. At least that's how I see it. Because no matter how many of these check pushes I make, they just call me, like with Ace 8, which went for a thin value bet.
The logic is like it's to bluff here, you really have to think hard, right?
Yes, but check pushing, well, it's just a super default line like you ended up with King Jack, Jack 10, Queen 10, King 7 with the blue king on the river. Well, you always checked them, got a bet, then woke up and scratched your head. Oh, I have a blocker on something, he capped somewhere, well, catch the all-in. And all the thin value bets just calmly into a moot call. And I think that overall it's a good play. But through such a line, through a block, when you start leading these hands, it seems more interesting. Well, that's how I see it.
And with value, someone will definitely come up with a way to play, but with bluffs, they'll forget.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Well, in general, you see how well he bets a Queen Jack like that. I really don't, well, around only these hands. We also bet one big blind with King Jack with Jack 10 as our main bets. The guy on our bet of one big blind. By the way, when I gave him a size like this, at first he raised with a smaller size and raised more queens and folded them to all-ins. When I gave him a bigger size, only aces are raised. When only aces are raised, we push all queens, jacks. Well, and we push these hands just a little bit, and at the same time he should call. I don't know in what percentage of cases this can be seen. Well, like 1 out of 5 times he calls any bluff catcher. Well, any bluff catcher. But the key is that we bet push with Queen Jack. Well, we won't mention King 10 because that small line is basically nothing. That's our main value. Well, in general.
Queen Jack, he pushes, and maybe they do it with worse hands, right?
Smart.
Well, when we push Queen Jack, do worse hands call us?
Well, yes, 20% calls with ace high. It used to show a bit earlier.
Yes, I understand.
After all, he calls because the solver can't afford to play without a bet call or for the bet call to fail badly. You see, there he folds 66%. Now, well, 33% he calls. Well, these are hands like Queen 2, Ace 2, Jack 7, and so on. But these hands generally print a lot. Well, Ace 2, obviously, that's just...
Well, Queen Jack turns out to be for values.
Yes, Queen Jack bet is pushed for value. Well, in short, again, a very complex line. I'll be honest, even seeing this, I have no idea. But you can experiment somewhere at the lower end of the range just to see how the field reacts.
No, at the bottom, I think it's not worth it.
And at the top, there are such ego players that you can't make anyone fold an ace. If some, well, hypothetically, yes, I imagine some kind of milk style or whatever, or in Ropian, he raises on the river with ace-5 so that I could make him fold those ace-5. I mean, for me, it's kind of like science fiction for this guy to fold something. Well, like...
Well, actually, the key here is not so much that we push further into a race, but that we block ourselves instead of checking. In this hand, I focused more on that because we are not chip folding, not check raising, since the check raise line seems to be the worst here. I mean, with check push. And check calling is also kind of, well, unclear against which hands there. There are some bluffs, but it's also kind of a lukewarm story.
You see that we get 30% raises. And in real life, I think, well, we get about that. Yes, we get a very cool 50% of calls, like, well, from hands like 8-7.
Or 2-8s or 2-9s or 7-6. This will also happen.
Much worse than ours. We don't split with them, right? 2 jacks, ace, queen.
No, we are winning. We are winning by kicker, right? Well, yes. The third card wins.
Yes.
Well, we collect from jacks and sevens. Well, yes, we collect from king 7 different ones. Well, anyway, it's still interesting that it works for us. What to do if we get a raise? Oh, well, probably. Well, in short, honestly, you played very beautifully, cool, but I wouldn't have played like that. I think we're investing in very, very borderline situations. I even like the call more, but I could be wrong.
Well, Ilya, the hands are brilliant. I don't want to play with him in hindsight. No irony.
I didn't fold any bad ones. Well, just a little.
You'll break your brain playing like that.
Yes, well, no, but sometimes you really do have time to think and figure something out. But more often you just sit there like a monkey with plates. And how many tables do you play, Ilya? 9, 8 now. Maybe I'll play a little less, 7 probably.
Well, by the way, now I play a maximum of 12, although I used to play more. And often I play 10. I feel great. You have time to think everywhere, like, well, but again, you see, you also have a good creative component in the game. By the way, it's good somewhere. What do you think about the hands here? The button opened. We 3-bet 43 on the table. Well, yes. 8, play check, turn, check, river. We bet 2 and 2, get a raise to 21. This is really
cool. In short, we induced the guy again, darn it.
Out of the blue.
Yes, exactly. Out of nowhere. Well, it's also interesting here what hands he checks on the river, on the turn, and how people play in real life. In essence, you see, the solver doesn't really like constructing such a size. We just don't understand what to build it around, except for Jack 10, to somehow hide cheaply. Here, did I size it correctly, by the way? Yes, correctly, 34.
Well, that is, if he has a hand like Queen 3 there, a Spade 3 puts 25 with it.
Or it's not there at all, thanks.
With aces, he bets, collecting value with ace 10. He has an interesting choice of hands.
Yes, I mean, there's this layer of those 3, 4, 5x cheap plush ones, to be precise. What does he do with them? They're nowhere on the river.
What hands again?
Well, let's say Jack 4. Oh, there's King 4 with a 4. Spades.
He bet them somewhere, apparently.
He black bet, yeah, it seems.
Well, I bet the flop. We have a big bet on the flop. We want to bet a lot. Well, you'll see the turn after the check on the turn. We bet little, but the river came out brilliantly, the guy raised with an unclear hand, and folded to the all-in, so we collected almost the entire stack, 75% of the stack. The solver prefers a slightly different play. With a small sizing, it's unclear what it's based on. But now, when you see the small sizing, and by the way, this doesn't mean the solver sees it correctly. So if you induce much more than the solver induces, then here it has 22% raise. And what about the spade? Well, yes, but I think he covers the all-in for the king of spades. And it's interesting about the queen of spades. Yes, he covers the all-in for the jack of spades.
I think such hands just aren't in the range. They either bet on the flop or the turn. So it's a range consisting of ace-queen, ace-jack. That's how it seemed, I think. And now it seems the same. Well, it's something showdown worthy that you don't really want to bluff, but on the river they rolled the dice.
In short, even though the solver doesn't like it, in real life it will work much better than the solver. So in short, even despite what we see here, if you feel comfortable, I think you should continue. Well, the main thing is not to go crazy and still check yourself. Consult with someone where it's good, because the game of creative people sometimes borders on genius and sometimes on complete madness.
Stupidity.
Yes, you know, when someone thinks they're playing brilliantly, but in reality they've long been, well, like Romeo is a good example.
Romeo set the test, yes.
He has already crossed the line of genius.
Well, yes, I mean, at some point his play was brilliant, and then it all fell apart, and no one can say, dude, you're just wasting money, therefore...
But in any case, I like it, but here...
And Yuka, how would you play? I would just push. I'm a simple person, I see a knockout, I try to take it.
I don't know how I played, but I can say that I would play like Ilya, because I don't play like that in general. I always have this greed at the table. And that's why probably I would play, strange as it may sound. Like if a person has something, they hit it. If they have nothing, they fold. I have this thing, putting in 2 blinds, let them raise me with nothing and I'll make money. It doesn't play in my head at all. And by the way, maybe in vain, I can't assess it yet. In any case, I just spent 6 or 7 hours yesterday, and today we're working on it. And still, I want it to not be in vain. I want to use BLOCKBETS somewhere. Maybe I can incorporate it into my game, and well, not maybe, but definitely.
So maybe everyone should post 3 BLOCKBETS in the group after the training.
A week of BLOCKBETS is announced.
Yes, you can test it, but why? Well, you can't say that BLOCKBETS are nonsense. We see that in some situations it's good. But would you have pushed all in, right?
Yeah, I would just push and that's it. Well, there are 8 big blinds here, so Ilya took a lot, 75% of the stack, but you can take 125% of the stack.
Sure, but you see, Ilyuka thinks that these hands will be placed earlier somewhere. That is, he thinks that there's a hand like ace, jack of diamonds, for example.
Well, with a spade, it's like he'll still raise. Well, with a high one.
No, he would have raised, but he didn't give you the stack. Well, for example, if you go all in here, the high spade won't fold. Like if we push...
Well, I think there are spades just. Well, on the turn, he has some kind of hand there with a spades. Well, he went check back. Well, kind of realized equity. Quite.
Well, as I said, there's no single answer here. It's creativity versus the usual. The working worm who just sees the nut flush will go all in, saying, show me what you've got. Well, in general, yes. You see, I don't fold the hand myself, but I think, well, why should I fold them if we can look at them at any moment? Well, maybe that's a bad plan. I will be sharing my hands too, because I have a ton of hands marked and analyzed, and I will also be sharing hands.
I also, by the way, threw it up there. I don't know if you saw it or not, but maybe not.
Max, I saw yours, but I didn't analyze them simply because each hand is not really about the block bet. So there's a question.
Well, there were more questions about you posting a hand where you have questions about playing out of position.
Yes. I also threw it in.
We'll analyze them a bit on another day because they're not quite on the topic of block betting. Here, practically, well, with the fours here, we have a complete bluff. So we don't want to bluff with a block bet at all.
Here it's just a question of whether we are enough.
If there was a question about block bets, I would have found block bets. I was just looking for out of position. What I found, basically, I sent, as you asked, that's what I sent, basically.
I understand. All right, we'll analyze it.
All right, we'll analyze it.
Next. Well, with aces here, everything is like clockwork. I don't know if you saw it or not. The tag raise, cut off 3-bet. We 4-bet on the big blind. Stack 150. He has 120. Bet a quarter, bet 25 on the turn, and bet 12 on the river. And again, here the question is between...
Checks are better for this.
Yes, where do we show a great weakness with a small check or bet? But we probably don't, because solver still prefers a check. Well, so we choose 10%. All in, well, somewhere all in. If we talk about 10%, it's very little. But again, if we bet 10%, then what does he turn into a bluff? Here, for example, this hand, which...
This is madness overall.
Huh?
It's madness that he played with jacks. If you play like that, you definitely need to play for 10%.
I think so too. Most likely it just depended on the opponent, on who was sitting there.
Of course, if we now assume that the guy is pushing jacks and tens, then it's clear where our...
Damn, I know when to play such hands. Basically, at the end of the session, closer to when everyone is really committed. In some kind of heater, you definitely need to play like that.
I can't, my shoulder hurts a lot. Like I said, when I start laughing, it hurts. Yes, it's the end of the session right now, in the middle of the series.
At the end of the series too. Yes.
Well, I don't know here, just madness. By the way, yes, this is a bad hand. This is good.
I folded it on purpose. So yes, it was a knockout because of me, a big knock, and I just didn't expect a large number of trips that he showed, right? Started to overthink something like that.
For Sparky, it's probably not good to pull this off, right, Andrey, on average?
Well, yes, but we also just have a category of hands. By the way, what do you think will be the most non-optimal play here? What would we like to change in the hand? Well, besides turning it into a bluff, well, a 9x hand, what else would the solver really dislike in this line, the line played?
We probably can't always raise her on the flop, by the way.
Well, we can. We can selectively. This is basically okay for the solver.
I don't know, call raise in general?
I like it.
No, solver, when a card is revealed that strengthens our range, what he really wants to donk and...
Once more.
Huh?
Oh no, not again. I understand.
No, it's just a hand here. Maybe it wasn't clear at first. We check raised and got a 3-bet on the flop, called it. And now it's the perfect time for us to go on the offensive because...
By the way, he is quite logical.
Oh, the card fits our range very well. And we can cheaply continue to, well, slither further somehow. Well, obviously we can also play a check with our hand. Mm-hmm. And specifically here, our hand is 50-50 and it's okay. But overall, our 80% donk on the turn, we must not forget that we can afford to play like this.
And like Senche, his hands just get tied and we can push through our equity, all sorts of things. Yeah, like these flush draws, everything else. That's the story.
Yes, that we can just push equity through a large amount. Well, he really doesn't have 6 different ones here in the range. Well, very few. Well, here it's simple that with Queen 9 you can really play like that, but raises, I think you just call. Well, there are all-ins here, but very few raises.
Very few raises, but your hand just calls. It calls profitably.
Uh-huh.
And that's it. But this is a very fast fish hunt from the flop. This one from the flop when I start 3-betting you further. Immediately, I have a feeling that two strong ranges continue against you. Well, from what I've seen there, well, yeah, except for a 6 a bluff, there are no empty hands. There will just be a very strong range. Well, 2 5s, a 6-6 hand.
I even now looking at the river, well, if he played like that, I can't even imagine raising a pair. First check the turn and second raising a block. It's like, no.
Yeah, got a bit wound up.
Yes.
Got a bit tangled up, it happens. And overall, now, once again, when I reviewed all these hands, I come to the conclusion that we want to make a block when we get calls from hands weaker than ours and don't expect too many conversions. What? Well, after all, our block is a relatively weak part of the range. If we have too many transformations, then this accelerated strategy, when we will play the pot, stop, big blind plus on the second, third pair because we showed weakness and we think that we will be squeezed too much, I think that's not the case. By the way, what are your conclusions from the training about the blocks?
The most important takeaway for me is opponent selection.
Yes, selecting opponents. This is.
And I still have a question regarding strictly good value, where we want to block exactly there. Also, ops select.
Oh, very opponent dependent. Mostly we want to play value in other lines, like we really want to block value. That's just for me, even despite the ace-2 hand, for me it's still, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm an old school player. I'm kind of used to, if we have value, we pile on a lot. Let them pay, the bastard, but...
Maybe the opponent needs to be a bit more cunning because the machine even blocks value.
I even saw this, Andrey, at the Winamax finals, where a guy blocked super value 3 times against another who was splashing the whole table, and he always raised and he always had the nuts. In short, and he always had trash. I watched all of this. It was madness, of course, but he played those blocks perfectly. So we can conclude that these blocks with the nuts are definitely needed somewhere against...
Well, yes, you see how it is mostly with us.
I think, Andrey, the nuts should kind of block calls. Well, that is, if we have a flush, then it's through the ace, something like that. So that...
What that is, we shouldn't have it. If the opponent has a narrow range for calling our value bet, then yes, then it makes sense to block. Well, like if we don't get enough calls on our big bets, but if say we don't block, well, for example, you have ace 10 5 or ace 9 5, you have a set of fives, you play bet and block, then it's the same.
Got it. We don't block the ace, right?
Huh?
We don't block the ace, and that's the whole story.
Yes, meaning we don't block his main
Well, that's easy.
hands for calling. What's mainly here? Here are dynamic boards, so there are few hands for calling. Look how many hands we've reviewed.
Well, I concluded where you can bet for values. For example, we bet the river. There's an ace that fits him well, but he still has a piece of junk. There's a lot of range with hands that can generally turn into that, and we completed the flush. Then the block is kind of a good idea.
Well, yes, well, let's say here it seems like there's little point in blocking, but if against a fish, then it's good anyway. We don't get paid by anything weaker than our hand, and it seems like there's little point in blocking. Well, that's what I would think. They can also turn it into a bluff with this size, like a 5x hand or a 6x hand.
By the way, does the 8 block the queen even a little bit?
Here, yes.
We watch there a lot. 8s, and will always be blocked well on 8.
Well, yes, because we will get raises from a simple 8. Well, yes, here 8s are generally blocked simply because the opponent's range is quite weak.
Yes, and it fits just right.
Yes, but blocking a 9 here makes little sense because it's unclear why we're blocking it. Worse hands might just bluff us because the guy has a lot of 8s in his range. So he might come up with combo bluffs based on those 8s. Well, so what bluffs does he have here? His bluffs are precisely those transformations.
Only 10, ace 10, king 10, something like that.
Yes, 10s are a good bluff for him.
Well, and partially 8s. They might still re-raise us in general with 3 bets. Someone won't resist re-raising.
Well, yes, they can.
Well, I see.
Here the situation for blocking is not so great either. We bet a little on the flop. On the turn, you see it's not quite desirable. Actually, here we had a good situation for blocking. Here is a good situation for a block when we don't have direct value. That is, in most situations when we block, we don't have much direct value here. With an 8 here to block, well, if we ended up with an 8, well, we don't block the king and we just bet 6 blinds. He just insta-calls with his king, queen, others, well, not others, just...
At the same time, the 8 is not us, right? Here it's a jack, and a jack 8 will bet on the flop for us, right? If we decided queen jack.
Jack 8, after all, if we're talking about a 3-bet pot. Big blind on...
Master.
On the one who has very few of them.
Well, yes, master.
I would, maybe phrase it like this, Andrey, that a block is appropriate when the river can significantly change the equity in favor of, it doesn't even matter in favor of what or not, but which closes 4-3, 4 flush or some overcard. But at the same time, our value part still dominates this main part, which we would have bet on previous streets, whether it's weaker pocket pairs or like here, weaker king or queen X, when an ace came, like when there were 107 hands of this type.
Who do you mean by that?
The very first one. Yes. When there's a queen X here, but both the flush completed and an ace came out, and we still have hands that beat this queen, but value betting with them doesn't fit because the whole flush completed.
By the way, I thought here that you can also play flushes like this. The range is leaky.
Well, through the queen, 100%, yes, just to roll it perfectly, because there's nothing to collect from for a big, we don't block, and 5-7, all this junk, 4-7.
Well, yes, but here, you see, it's important for him to turn 7s or 3s into a bluff.
Again, from the select ops.
Yes, we are again hitting the select of opponents because there are people who will never bluff here with 7s or 3s. They played by equity, dangerous cards opened. They're like, well, okay, whatever.
Yes, but they also won't pay us for our flushes when we set high prices.
Well, won't they pay? They certainly won't pay us with flushes with these hands, but let's say they won't resist paying with ace-7 or ace-8, for example.
And also, maybe they will raise us. No, probably they won't raise us, right? Our small block.
On the block, they will gladly call. That is, they played twice with ace-7, ace-8 call, or their ace-3 if they don't.
Yes.
And on the river, they will happily call on the block, but when we bet 60% plus, there will be torturous deliberations call.
There, also in the cover. +7, +3, and 3-bet will be partial still.
Well, yes, I understand. But sometimes they will be against it. They might not want to call. Well, in short, the choice of opponent is very important here. I think that...
I will look for some block calls after this training. I will find them.
Only not in 3-bet pots. I'll try not in 3-bet pots.
And fold. I also...
For Andrey, 3 block back calls from each.
Guys, yeah, just fold. Well, it's interesting overall.
I folded everything. I put in what I have. I have 2 of them, and the win rate is 0%. Always lost. We will improve the stats.
We will raise it, especially when you go out in the evening. It's easier to raise the status, I'll tell you that.
Well, yes, I know the opponents better. I understand against whom I can push.
Yes, Ilyuka, thank you very much for the topic, because when you wrote, I thought, damn, well, it's kind of hard. I look at myself, I have, in general, all my blocks are some kind of where, well, I don't have a single complete beta block.
I have a block bet that I further...
Here I placed a really crappy block bet. I think, damn, why did I even place it? But here, the guy, by the way, is also Brazilian. I placed 40%.
I think this is a Lithuanian.
Is he Lithuanian? Strange.
Well, it's considered the same thing now.
I understand. And I 3-bet flop. He called turn. I bet a quarter on the river instead of getting there with an 8 with a 4. I think. Well, I'll put another block share, although I had very little left. How much did we put in? 27, 44, 47. Well, I put in half the stack there. I could have put in everything. I mean, I still had about 70,000 left after the bet. Like, he calls and shows 10-3. I'm thinking, damn, why didn't I go all in with the 4? Well, that's probably a really bad block.
Well, in short.
It's fine.
Andrew, yes, thank you very much for the analysis. It turned out really great.
Yes, thank you for the topic, Iljuk.
This is...
Yes, go ahead and fold. By the way, the last one where I placed a block and also...
This is not a block. It's 30%.
Well, like 30%. But what is that? Well, that's not winning.
And everything's good for me everywhere. And well, anyway, let's go.
I'll bet.
Come on, guys. On Friday, we'll do Vitya's deals. Vitya, if anything later there, well, just...
We can much later. I'll be breaking my routine. We can even call at night.
Yes, we'll probably call at night because we're going to some concert that Bam 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 singer's coming. My wife likes her, so we're going.
Bam bam bam, 3-3, bam bam bam, her.
No, not something else. Now, what's her name? She, her, just a second.
I say.
Misha Miller, that's it. She's coming to Chisinau and we're going, so... Well, I think we're such party goers that we'll be home by 12.
Okay, in touch. I'll be at the computer all the time now.
I definitely in touch with the issues.
Exactly. I can join.
Yes. Well, let's do it closer to after midnight then.
That's all. Thank you, everyone. Good luck to all.
All the best. Bye.
Bye. Take care, guys.